Okay, hi again. This is problem 2 because I noticed you had problem 2 wrong. And I remember I looked at this before for you. Anyway, this is a pretty intense fraction problem, but we'll go over it. So I put it over here, and the first thing we have to do, of course, is work inside the parentheses. And inside the parentheses is addition. So when you're adding fractions, the most important things are you find a common denominator before you add. And then when you have whole numbers, you have these mixed fractions, you can add them. So that's that's very, very helpful. It's not the same for multiplication. Anyway, let's just change the fraction parts so they have common denominators. So a common denominator between 6 and 4 is actually 12, because 6 times 2 is 12 and 4 times 3 is 12. So whenever you multiply the bottom, you have to multiply the top by the same number. And that changes those fractions. So let's write out what we have. We still have the 2 and the parentheses. We still have the 9. We haven't done anything with that. 6 times 2 now is 12. And 1 times 2 is 2. So 1/6 becomes 2/12. We still have the plus sign. We have the whole number. And this 3/4, 4 times 3 is 12. So that becomes 12ths. But it becomes 3 times 3 is 9/12. And we still have this minus 3 1/4 hanging out over here. Okay, now we can proceed inside the parentheses by simply adding the 2 plus the 9. So what we'll do with that is 2 plus 9 is 11. So we will have 11/12 in the parentheses. And because adding mixed fractions is nice and friendly, we can add our whole numbers now. So 12 plus 9 is 21. So inside the parentheses, we've now condensed these fractions to 21 and 11/12. We have a 2 over here. We still have minus 3 1/4. Now the next thing we do is not subtract, but we have to multiply 2 times what's inside the parentheses. And here's the funny part. When you're multiplying, you cannot multiply this and then multiply the 2 times the fraction. It doesn't work that way. You have to change this 21 and 11/12 to an improper fraction. So for multiplying fractions, one good thing is you don't need a common denominator, but you cannot multiply whole numbers. You have to change to improper fractions. So how do we do that? We do our famous 12 times 21 plus 11. So 12 times 21 plus 11. Well, we're not doing that in our heads. 12 times 21 equals plus 11 equals 263, yuck, 12ths. So whatever we multiply and then add, we put it back over that 12 right there, because we don't lose the denominator. The denominator stays the same. All we've done is cut up 21 pies into 12ths and added all those 12ths to the 11/12. That's the short version. Okay. So when we multiply this by 2, we remember, or you should remember, that it's 2 over 1. So now you multiply 2 times 263. 2 times 263. Whoops. 2 times 263. 526. 2 times 263 equals 526. and then 1 times 12 is 12, and that becomes 526 twelves. Wow! And then what we have here is minus 3 1/4. There's a couple of things we can do. We can change this to an improper fraction and subtract, which might be easier in this case. Just to take a quick look, what is 526? Are we even close? If we divide that by 12, do we have a whole number there? No, we're going to have 43 and some 12ths left over. Which way should we do it? Let's try making this improper, which would then be 4 times 3 plus 1. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13/4. Alright, but of course this is subtraction, so we have to find a common denominator. I'm running out of room. Wait, let's see. Okay. So minus, let's call this 13/4, because I changed it into an improper fraction. 4 times 3 is 12 plus 1, 13. We've got this big thing over here, 526 over 12. We can change, the common denominator is 12. We don't have to touch that 526. Let's change this one times 3 to 12ths times 3. So 13 times 3, I should know that. Used to know that. 13 times 3 is 39. So now we have 39/12. So we've got this. I'll move that over here, but what I'm going to do is keep going over here. So I'm going to take this 5/26 and subtract 39/12 because 13 times 3 is 39, and then the denominator 4 times 3 is 12. So now I have common denominator. I can subtract 526 minus 39. So 526 minus 39 is 487. Just gets wackier as we go. 47 over 12, which then we would want to change back into a mixed fraction. So we divide 12 into 487. Divided by 12 is 40. It's about 40 and a half, but we'll see what it is. It'll be 40, which means 40 times 12. This is a really weird way of doing it. 40 times 12 is 480. 480 minus 487, which is 7. So 7. So 40 and 7/12 is the final answer. Well, if you try it again, you've probably tried this problem a lot already, and you don't quite get there, don't worry about it. You have a good strong grade on this particular unit, and you'll never see anything like this on the test. This is pretty intense, meaning it's a lot of steps. So, but most importantly, if you can remember a few things, like find a common denominator when you're adding. You can add mixed or the big numbers when you're adding. You have to get improper fractions in order to multiply. You have to multiply the 2, not times the 21, but times the improper fraction here of 263 over 12. All right. And then when you're subtracting again, you have to have a common denominator. Where am I going to circle that? Before you can subtract. You could make these mixed fractions, but since we were most of the way there with the improper fractions, then I just left them. Okay, that one is done.